The Western media often gives the impression that the embattled and occasionally violent form of religiosity known as fundamentalism is a purely Islamic phenomenon. This is not the case. Fundamentalism is a global fact and has surfaced in every major faith in response to the problems of our modernity. There is fundamentalist Judaism, fundamentalist Christianity, fundamentalist Hinduism, fundamentalist Buddhism, fundamentalist Sikhism, and even fundamentalist Confucianism. Fundamentalism is not a monolithic movement. Each form of fundamentalism, even within the same tradition, develops independently and has its own symbols and enthusiasms, but its different manifestations all bear a family resemblance. It has been noted that a fundamentalist movement does not arise immediately as a knee-jerk response to the advent of Western modernity, but only takes shape when the modernization process is quite far advanced. At first, religious people try to reform their traditions and effect a marriage between them and modern culture, as we have seen the Muslim reformers do. But when these moderate measures are found to be of no avail, some people resort to more extreme methods, and a fundamentalist movement is born. Of the three monotheistic religions, Islam was in fact the last to develop a fundamentalist strain when modern culture began to take root in the Muslim world in the late 1960s and 1970s. By this date, fundamentalism was quite well established among Christians and Jews who had had longer exposure to the modern experience. It is not correct, therefore, to imagine that Islam has within it a militant, fanatic strain that impels Muslims into a crazed and violent rejection of modernity. Muslims are in tune with fundamentalists and other faiths all over the world who share their profound misgivings about modern secular culture. It should also be said that Muslims object to the use of the term fundamentalism, pointing out quite correctly that it was coined by American Protestants as a badge of pride and cannot be usefully translated into Arabic. Fundamentalism therefore exists in a symbiotic relationship with the coercive secularism. Fundamentalists nearly always feel assaulted by the liberal or modernizing establishment, and their views and behavior become more extreme as a result. Fundamentalist movements in all faiths share certain characteristics. They reveal a deep disappointment and disenchantment when the modern experiment, which has not fulfilled all that it promised. Whenever modernity takes root, a fundamentalist movement is likely to rise up alongside it in conscious reaction. Fundamentalists will often express their discontent with the modern development by overstressing those elements in their tradition that militate against it. Fundamentalism therefore reveals a fissure in society which is polarized between those who enjoy secular culture and those who regard it with dread. As time passes, the two camps become increasingly unable to understand one another. Fundamentalism thus begins as an internal dispute, with liberalizers or secularists within one's own culture or nation. In the first instance, for example, Muslim fundamentalists will often oppose their fellow countrymen or fellow Muslims who take a more positive view of modernity, rather than such external foes as the West or Israel. Very often, fundamentalists begin by withdrawing from mainstream culture to create an enclave of pure faith. Thence, they will sometimes conduct an offensive which can take many forms, designed to bring the mainstream back to the right path and re-secularize the world. All fundamentalists feel that they are fighting for survival, and because their backs are to the wall, they can believe that they have to fight their way out of the impasse. In this frame of mind, on rare occasions, some resort to terrorism.